The key identification in this entire passage is to find out who the sons of God are. And I'm going to give that away at the very beginning because there's no point in hiding the fact. I am convinced that these are demons. These are demons. You can write that down in capital letters if you want. I'm not going to move off of that understanding, and I'll show you why as we go. This particular text is the first invasion recorded for us of the satanic force into human life. Now, we know that Satan himself came into the garden and confronted Adam and Eve, but here is plural, sons of God coming down, taking wives of the daughters of men, and that is the first description of a mass invasion, demonic invasion. In fact, you might even title these 4 verses, Demonic Invasion. Are the sons of God. And the first consideration, please to note, is that they are juxtaposed against the daughters of men. So we could conclude that whoever they are different than the daughters of men. And the difference lies not in sons and daughters, but in God and men. That's the first thing. All theological, all philosophical, all rational perspectives aside, the contrast then is between creatures of God and creatures of men. That's the point. The contrast is between sons of God and daughters of men, creatures of God and creatures of men. Sons of God can't be sons of men. Nor can sons of God refer to righteous men or to some righteous line of men, since there is no such thing as a righteous line of men, and there is no way that men in the Old Testament are ever designated as sons of God. So we want to stick with the language. The oldest interpretation of this passage, by the way, the oldest one, the traditional Jewish one, the view of the rabbis and modern Jewish commentators like Umberto Cassuto, the view of the church fathers is that the sons of God refer to demons, fallen angels. Why do they say that? Because, very simply, every time you have an Old Testament reference to sons of God, it refers to angels. And as I said to you, the oldest book of the Old Testament very likely is the book of Job. And so we know that the language used in the book of Job would give us a good indication of the kind of language that would be used in the patriarchal period or the Genesis period. And in Job chapter 1, verse 6, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them. We know what that is. That's Satan in the midst of the demons coming before the throne of God. Chapter 2, verse 1, there was a day when the sons of God, Job 2:1, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them to present himself before the Lord. So it becomes very apparent to us that the sons of God is a term to designate angels. As I mentioned at the very outset, in the 38th chapter of Job and the 7th verse, the holy angels are also called sons of God. And what that means is they are the direct creation of God. I could go into all kinds of linguistic material to show you that wherever you have the concept of sons of God, it has reference to one who is made immediately by God. One who is the product of God's creative work. And so in the Old Testament, that term, sons of God, is reserved for those who are not the product of a human union, but are the creation of God. They are called also sons of the mighty in Psalm 29:1. That's another term for angels. They are sons of the mighty in that they are the direct creation of God. In Psalm 89, you have a similar indication. I think it's verse 6. Sons of the mighty again. So the term is reserved, and it's very important to note that the book of Job is right around the time of the writing, of course, of the Pentateuch, and describes life at that particular time. The sons of God is a phrase used to describe angelic beings. And if you make it into anything else, if you say that it means humans, it means kings, it means warriors, it means nobles, you don't have any biblical basis for that. That is purely conjecture, that is purely invented. What you have here then is heavenly beings contrasted with earthly beings, those who come directly from God and those who come directly from man. There's no way to make sons of God refer to Sethites, people in the line of Seth, nobles, kings, rulers, or aristocracy, because nowhere in the Bible are any of those groups called sons of God. It can't refer to polygamous kings or despotic warriors, as some would think, because you don't have any evidence of that. That's pure conjecture. If you're consistent with the language of the Old Testament, they are sons of God. They are the direct creation of God, which is what angels are. And men, once God created Adam and Eve, men then become the procreation of other men. And that is the distinction. But what is interesting here is that these sons of God, these spiritual beings who exist in their own realm, saw the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. Now you have the perversity here of these spiritual fallen angels, these demon beings, overstepping the boundaries of their realm. They defy God by leaving the defined realm that God has placed them in, their spirit world, and they enter the human realm. Now, we know that they can do that. Satan has already entered the realm of animals and showed up indwelling a snake in the garden. Now, these demons, it says, are motivated because they saw that the daughters of men were beautiful. In some kind of twisted, actually, kitabot in Hebrew means that they were good or attractive or fair. Wicked spirits attracted to female creatures, wicked, perverted demons, able even to appreciate the beauty that God has placed in women in some perverse and twisted way. Now, these daughters of men are not some special group of women. They're just the daughters indicated in generic sense in verse 1. The demons have some desire for these women. And so they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. This refers, by the way, not to rape, because the word in the Hebrew to take a wife is lakah, and it describes a marital transaction. I think there are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 times in Genesis when this word is used to refer to the actual transaction of marriage. Some have thought the demons came in like Rosemary's Baby, you know, the old story, and raped the women. That is not it. There was an actual marital transaction. The question then comes, how can this be? How can an immaterial, spiritual being, a fallen angel, a demon, marry a woman? How can they choose a wife and have a legal ceremony? How can they engage in a marriage? Only one way, folks. They have to take the body of a man. And I think that's so obvious that it doesn't even need to be said. Now, we know that angels do this. Satan took the form of a serpent in the garden. If you go over, I won't take the time, into chapter 18 of Genesis and chapter 19, you will find that angels appear to Abraham. And in what form do they appear? As men. And later on, you'll find Jacob, and he is wrestling with an angel, and you can't wrestle with a spirit. He's wrestling with an angel in a physical form, in the form of a man, and the effort is so great that he gets permanently wounded by it. In Hebrews chapter 13, we are reminded that some have entertained angels without knowing it. Why? Because for us to see an angel, for an angel to actually appear and be present, they must come in a form that we can see, and they always appear in a male form. Though angels are spirits, and in heaven they don't marry or are given in marriage, according to Matthew 22:30, when they appear on earth, they always take a human body. Do they create bodies for that? Well, angels can't create. It may well be that they work through existing human bodies. I don't think there's a angelic body closet and you go in and ask for a 42 long body because you want to go down and do something. I think that they work through humans. There's no way to explain how that is, but we know that holy angels occasionally appeared in human form. They came into a human body and worked and served through that body. And even in the book of Hebrews, clear in the New Testament, it says to be aware of the fact that still can happen, because people have entertained angels unaware. You didn't even know that an angel was ministering through someone. Now, we also know from the Bible that demons can enter human bodies.